President,
Senator from Oklahoma.
I'd like to ask to set aside the quorum call.
Without objection.
Mr. President, the Senate's talking a lot about health care right now, for good reason. There are major cost increases going up on insurance all across the country, but especially for some folks that are in Obamacare marketplace plans. I talked earlier this week with a gentleman from my state who's in his early 60s, runs a small business, works his tail off. His insurance plan that he's taken on, he took on in the last few years because of the enhanced premium tax credit subsidies that were added in 2021. Those temporary tax gifts to insurance companies expire in just a few weeks. Now, he knew that they would expire. As he told me in our conversation, even as we had this week, he said he knew they were temporary, but now he's trying to figure out what to do to find affordable health care options for himself because his health care plan is going to go up about $500 a month. That's an enormous amount. And his frustration was pretty clear. He's just looking for a plan that he can afford. He's just looking for an option. He's not asking for something unrealistic. He's just trying to figure out what to do. And he asked me the question, how did we get here? How did this happen? Well, let me just walk through that. Because the interesting thing about all this is how confusing that it's really been in the process. Everyone that I talk to about healthcare, they all say, it's incredibly confusing, I can't figure out any of this. Well, let me try to explain just a couple of things we're talking about. What my Democratic colleagues are asking for is a multi-billion-dollar extension of not of Obamacare, but of a subsidy that was put on top of Obamacare, and it doesn't apply to 320 million Americans. It applies to about 20 million Americans. And if I want to make it even more specific from that, it's not just the 20 million Americans, because most of those qualify for the full subsidy. It's just for a certain group, typically folks that are 50 to 64, that it applies to. And it's that particular group that are on the Obamacare marketplace that are in that age bracket that are facing very high premiums that are coming up very, very soon. And it's a big deal to them, as well it should be for any American. But let me set the context for this. The Kaiser Family Foundation lists the average cost for insurance, for healthcare insurance on the individual market, the average cost for healthcare insurance in the individual market at $215 the year before Obamacare came into effect. Let that soak in for a minute. People in this room know how much your health insurance is now. If we went back to prior to Obamacare's passage, the average cost for the individual marketplace for health insurance was $215. Not so anymore. It's more than doubled, more than tripled for many people. President Obama said at that time that this is his quote, "It will cut the cost of the typical family's premium by about $2,500 a year." It's not reduced the typical family by $2,500 a year. It's dramatically increased. It's become more and more complicated. There are more and more entities that are involved in healthcare decisions. And the challenge for healthcare right now is the absolute complexity that has been created and the cost that continues to overwhelm. That's where we are as the baseline that every American is facing right now. In 2021, my Democratic colleagues saw the skyrocketing costs in what they call the American Rescue Plan during COVID. They added in an additional subsidy on top of Obamacare for about 10 million people. That was called the Enhanced Premium Tax Credit, that it got added on top of Obamacare because the Obamacare costs were skyrocketing so fast. They called it at the time a temporary plan to be able to help during COVID. But then a year later, they added another 2 years on top of it. That is now what is expiring at the end of this year, their temporary COVID extension. The problem is the price continues to go up so rapidly that now no one can afford the plan anymore. In my state in Oklahoma, we asked our insurance commissioner, take a 6-year snapshot and tell us what's happened in the marketplace, the Obamacare marketplace, without the subsidies. If the subsidies went away, what was the increase? And for the commercial insurance from my state, what changed during that time period? For Obamacare, the rates have gone up 198% in 6 years. In commercial insurance in my state, it's gone up 29%. Apples to apples comparison. There's a very real problem with the structure of how Obamacare actually works. And the request has been, let's just put more subsidies on top of it, more subsidies on top of it, add billions and billions more in taxpayer dollars to cover up the problem that is underneath. There is a problem in the way that Obamacare is actually created and how it's actually operating and what it's causing, not just for that group in the marketplace, but what it's causing for everybody else, even people that are not in the marketplace at all, how that's driving up rates. So we are debating in the next 24 hours trying to be able to come to two sets of solutions here. My Democratic colleagues are bringing a proposal tomorrow to say, let's just take the subsidies that we did during COVID and let's extend those 3 more years. And we'll just do that. No reforms, no changes, no anything else. Let's just do that for 3 more years. It was interesting. I asked about the 3 more years and the exact timing on that and how that would work. It's fascinating when you pull back the politics of that 3-year extension. The 3-year extension goes through the end of 2028, but what they don't tell you is it actually would set up to announce the new insurance rates for 2029 that would not have the subsidies anymore in it the week before the presidential election in 2028. Well, that was clever. They set up a little political time bomb for the presidential election in 2028, saying they chose this certain date and this certain time to do it so that right before the next presidential election, we'd have this same argument all over again. No reforms, no changes, political date setting. Republicans are actually bringing forward a proposal and saying, we see you. We see what's been dropped on you. We see individuals that are in my state and all over the country that are now falling prey to what has happened in Obamacare, that they can't get options for different health care insurance, they can't get cheaper rates, and they certainly can't go back to what the rates were in 2010 at $215 a month anymore, because under Obamacare, if you're in the individual market, that's not allowed anymore. That is absolutely prohibited in federal law now. So we have a very simple proposal. We do want to assist folks that are stuck in this Obamacare marketplace to try to figure out how do we help them through this. But we don't want to send the dollars to the insurance companies. That's a hole. We want to send it to the individuals that are there and to give them some greater choice on it. So our main proposal is, yes, we want to help them, and we want to help them immediately, but we don't want to send dollars to insurance companies and trust them that it's going to be taken care of. We want to get the dollars to those particular individuals and to say, let us help you in this process, get through this next year as we hopefully reopen this whole debate about health care. The second thing that we want to do is increase the options for coverage for those individuals and increase it right away so that they've got greater flexibility on what they can choose. We trust the American people as they're shopping in the marketplace for health care insurance to be able to make better decisions. Long term, what I'd love to see is let's open up the conversation about how we have associational health care plans. Right now, this small business owner that I talked to earlier this week, he is limited to only choosing things in the Obamacare marketplace, and the price is absolutely skyrocketing for him. He doesn't have the option to actually join together with other small businesses and to get better negotiation for a better rate. A big company can do that. If you're Walmart, you can do that. If you're JP Morgan Chase, you can do that. But if you're my small business owner in Oklahoma, they cannot. They're prohibited from doing that. Well, that's ridiculous. They should be allowed to be able to join together and to be able to negotiate for better rates so they can get greater options on that. We want to be able to help expand health savings accounts Health savings accounts allow individuals to actually talk to their physician or to their hospital and say, how much does this cost? And to actually try to find a way to be able to compete for cost on it. Greater price transparency allows people to be able to choose if they've got to get an MRI, CT scan, whatever it may be, to say what are the best options to be able to do this. That actually brings the cost down. Most of the time people go to the hospital, they never know what the cost is for anything. They have no idea because quote unquote insurance is covering that until suddenly they don't. And then it becomes a big issue. That should be something we can all agree on. Greater flexibility, greater options on plans does nothing but help people. And an issue that I've worked on with several other folks in this room, and that's dealing with pharmacy benefit managers. We got to be able to actually land this. We all know that the rising cost of pharmaceuticals that's out there, we all experience that, and everybody says, what is the problem? It's the middleman in the middle of this that's actually controlling the formulary, controlling a lot of the pricing, and that completely hides the cost of everything on it. It's destroying, the pharmacy benefit managers are destroying our independent pharmacies in our rural areas all around the country as they continue to make more and more profits on Wall Street. We've got to say, we're not trying to destroy you, but you've got to stop destroying our independent pharmacies around the country, and you've got to actually be more transparent in the process on this. We have a bill that is a bipartisan bill that has come out of the Finance Committee that we have unanimous support for. Tell me how often that happens in this body, that we can't seem to get to the floor. We should be able to agree that if someone is trying to dramatically jack up the cost of pharmaceuticals on our individual constituents and in the families in our neighborhood in destroying our independent pharmacies, we should all be able to agree that's anti-competitive, and that's got to stop. We should be able to do that. Listen, we've already passed this last July a $50 billion amount going to rural hospitals to be able to stabilize those rural hospitals. We've already engaged in ways to be able to stabilize Medicaid long-term, to be able to make sure that program continues to work well. We've already taken on some of these things to be able to make things better. We've got to deal with the issue of individuals and their healthcare options and their opportunities to find better insurance to be able to take care of their healthcare. Let's increase competition. Let's increase options for individuals in the days ahead. But in the short term, let's at least get immediate assistance to those folks that need the help right now by getting dollars to those individuals, not by sending cash to the insurance companies and setting up a political time bomb right before the presidential election. That doesn't sound like that's actually helping people. That sounds like that perpetuates the same problem that we've already dealt with already. These are options that we should be able to have grown-up conversations and to resolve. There is a way to be able to resolve this. Let's get busy doing it. With that, I yield the floor.